also. And the body hasn't been located yet, I said, as I continued to wonder why this officer had taken it upon himself to call a medical examiner at such an early hour when it wasn't known for a fact that there was a body or even someone missing. We're out looking now, and the Navy's sending in a few divers, so we'll get the situation handled if it pans out. But I just wanted you to have a heads up, and be sure you give Dr. Mant my condolences. Your condolences? I puzzled, for if he had known about Mant's circumstances, why did he call here asking for him? I heard his mother passed on. I rested the tip of the pen on the sheet of paper. Would you tell me your full name and how you can be reached, please? S.T. Young. He gave me a telephone number, and we hung up. I stared into the low fire, feeling uneasy and lonely as I got up to add more wood. I wished I were in Richmond, in my own home, with its candles in the window and Fraser fir decorated with Christmases from my past. I wanted Mozart and Handel, instead of wind shrilly rushing around the roof. And I wished I hadn't taken Mant up on his kind offer that I could stay in his home instead of a hotel. I resumed reading the statistical report, but my mind wouldn't stop drifting. I imagined the sluggish water of the Elizabeth River, which this time of year would be less than 60 degrees, visibility at best maybe 18 inches. In the winter, it was one thing to dive for oysters in the Chesapeake Bay, or go 30 miles offshore in the Atlantic Ocean to explore a sunken aircraft carrier or German submarine, and other wonders worth a wetsuit. But in the Elizabeth River, where the Navy parked its decommissioned ships, I could think of nothing enticing, no matter the weather. I couldn't imagine who would dive there alone in winter after dark to look for artifacts or anything, and believed the tip would prove to be a crank. Leaving the recliner chair, I walked into the master bedroom where my belongings had metastasized throughout most of the small, chilly space. I undressed quickly and took a hurried shower, having discovered my first day here that the hot water heater had its limitations. In fact, I didn't like Dr. Mant's drafty house with its knotty pine paneling the color of amber and dark brown painted floors that showed every particle of dust. My British deputy chief seemed to live in the dark clutches of gusting wind, and every moment in his minimally furnished home was cold and unsettled by shifting sounds that sometimes caused me to sit up in my sleep and reach for my gun. Swathed in a robe with a towel wrapped around my hair, I checked the guest bedroom and bath to make certain all was in order for the midday arrival of Lucy, my niece. Then I surveyed the kitchen, which was pitiful compared to the one I had at home. I didn't seem to have forgotten anything yesterday when I had driven to Virginia Beach to shop, although I would have to do without garlic press, pasta maker, food processor, and microwave oven. I was seriously beginning to wonder if Mant ever ate in or even stayed here. At least I had thought to bring my own cutlery and cookware. And as long as I had good knives and pots, there wasn't much I couldn't manage. I read some more and fell asleep in the glow of a gooseneck lamp. The telephone startled me again, and I grabbed the receiver as my eyes adjusted to sunlight in my face. "This is Detective C.T. Roach with Chesapeake," said another male voice I didn't know. "I understand you're covering for Dr. Mant, and we need an answer from you real quick. Looks like we got a diving fatality in the inactive naval shipyard, and we need to go ahead and recover the body." "I'm assuming this is the case one of your officers called me about earlier?" His long pause was followed by the rather defensive remark, "As far as I know, I'm the first one notifying you." "An officer named Young called me at 5:15 this morning. Let me see." I checked the call sheet. Initials S as in Sam, T as in Tom. Another pause. Then he said in the same tone, "Well, I got no idea who you're talking about since we don't have anybody by that name." Adrenaline was pumping as I took notes. The time was 13 minutes past 9 o'clock. I was baffled by what he had just said. If the first caller really wasn't police, then who was he? Why had he called? And how did he know Mant? "When was the body found?" I asked Roach. "Around 6, a security guard for the shipyard noticed a John boat anchored behind one of the ships. There was a long hose in the water. Like maybe there was someone diving at the other end. And when it hadn't budged an hour later, we were called. One diver was sent down, and like I said, there is a body." "Do we have an identification?" "We recovered a wallet from the boat. The driver's license is that of a white male named Theodore Andrew Eddings." "The reporter?" I said in disbelief. "That Ted Eddings?" 32 years old, brown hair, blue eyes, based on his picture. He has a Richmond address of West Grace Street." The Ted Eddings I knew was an award-winning investigative reporter for the Associated Press. Scarcely a week went by when he didn't call me about something. For a moment, I almost couldn't think. "We also recovered a 9mm pistol from the boat," he said. When I spoke again, it was very firmly. "His identification absolutely is not to be released to the press or anyone else until it has been confirmed." "I already told everybody that. Not to worry." "Good. And no one has any idea why this individual might have been diving in the inactive shipyard?" I asked. "He might have been looking for Civil War stuff." "You speculate that based on what?" "A lot of people like to look in the rivers around here for cannonballs and things," he said. "Okay, so we'll go on and pull him in so he's not down there any longer than necessary." "I do not want him touched, and leaving him in the water a little longer isn't going to change anything." "What is it you're going to do?" He sounded defensive again. "I won't know until I get there." "Well, I don't think it's necessary for you to come here." "Detective Roach," I interrupted him, "the necessity of my coming to the scene and what I do when I'm there is not for you to decide." "Well, there's all these people I've got on hold, and this afternoon it's supposed to snow. Nobody wants to be standing around out there on the piers." "According to the Code of Virginia, the body is my jurisdiction, not yours or any other police, fire, rescue, or funeral person's. Nobody touches the body until I say so." I spoke with just enough edge to let him know I could be sharp. "Like I said, I'm going to have to tell all the rescue and shipyard people to just hang out, and they aren't going to be happy. The Navy's already leaning on me pretty hard to clear the area before the media shows up." "This is not a Navy case." "You tell them that. It's their ships." "I'll be happy to tell them that. In the meantime, you just tell everyone that I'm on my way," I said to him before I hung up. Realizing it could be many hours before I returned to the cottage, I left a note taped to the front door that cryptically instructed Lucy how to let herself in should I not be here. I hid a key only she could find, then loaded medical bag and dive equipment into the trunk of my black Mercedes. At 9:45, the temperature had risen to 38 degrees, and my attempts to reach Captain Pete Marino in Richmond were frustrating. "Thank God," I muttered when my car phone finally rang. I snatched it up. Scarpetta